Hello, this is Abby.
Dear Abby, this is gonna be a long one.
Oh boy.
Dear Abby, how do you tell the difference between a new exciting crush and a rebound?
Does it matter?
Dear Abby.
Dear Abby,
Dear Abby.
Welcome to our little corner of the internet. This is the Dear Abby podcast. I hope you stay and hang out with us. See you in a sec. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Dear Abby. I have missed you guys. I have missed being here, recording, setting everything up. I feel so excited and so rejuvenated. I'm so excited to talk about everything that I wanted to talk about today. I am very, very grateful for you guys allowing me to have that break. Again, I don't know how long I'm going to do twice a month, but already I do feel like it has really helped me. So anyways, I'm very excited to be here. I also apologize if my voice sounds a little bit weird. I have been sick for the past week and a half with a very bad cold or flu. I'm not totally sure what it was, but it was just some type of virus. It took me out for about 4 days fully to bedridden, not wanting to do anything, not feeling good. And now I just have the residual sinus stuff, which drives me crazy. But it got to the point where, and this will be my L. It was just being sick, but also specifically when you have a runny nose and it's just never ending. I get my nose starts to chafe because I don't use tissues. I use toilet paper. And I'm learning now at the age of, how old am I? 28, that you are supposed to use tissue paper for your nose, not toilet paper, because it's softer. So that way, when you do have to blow your nose 500 times a day, when you're sick, you don't start to get a rash on your nose, and then it's incredibly painful and itchy. It gets really itchy. I also learned because my nose kept running, and I was scared that I was hurting myself. And I actually think I did, because my head feels like it's like a lot of pressure in my sinuses, and I feel like I need a lymph massage. But I started to really research and nerd out about all the different holistic remedies for cold, and also the science of blowing your nose. Like, does it actually help? Because sometimes I feel like it's not helping. It just is never ending. So I wanted to make sure I was blowing my nose right. And there's a bunch of videos on YouTube that show you how to blow your nose. And there's one in particular that was very helpful for me. So you never know. So really, YouTube is just, again, the best place, the best media, the best anything, because there's so much good stuff out there that's not 5-second clippy videos, but give me long stuff that sometimes I have to skip through because it's so long. But give me the long formatted stuff. I like that. Give me the editing that takes way too long. I want that stuff. So that's been my past kind of week and a half. It's just being sick. So my voice sounds a little bit weird. Hopefully it's not too jarring to listen to. Today we are talking about a couple of things. We're going to talk about a lot of things. First, I'll just share a quick dub. I already shared my L. And then we're going to go into the details. And then we're going to talk about investing in your future self, because your future self is still going to be you. It's going to feel like you. It's still going to be the essence of you. And so it's not a waste if you have already spent a lot of time doing things you didn't actually end up wanting to pursue. So I'm just going to talk about investing in yourself in a lot of different areas, and also just the concept of little by little and how helpful that can be in slowing down and enjoying the process of learning, enjoying life, and accepting that, and accepting exactly how your life is right now, and how that does actually help you be more creative. It can help open up space in your mind and your body, and just being able to feel more free. I think sometimes when we burden ourselves with so much to do, and a lot of it we don't actually need to do, we just feel like we have to do in order to appease to an audience, or maybe we feel like we have to, maybe we just have so many friends and we overcommit to things, or we think we need to watch all the new shows or play all the new games, or I don't know, whatever it is. Sometimes we can just overcommit So that's what we're talking about this week. And we're going to go into a bunch of different avenues within those main topics. And then we're going to do a Dear Abby to end the episode. And I'm very excited because, again, I've missed being here. So without further ado, let's get into my dub from this week. My dub was I was able to play more video games. And you may think, now that's not very productive. True. It's not productive in the way that I'm not making money, if that's what one would mean by saying it's not productive. Or it's really just in my head that I'm like, well, that wasn't super productive, which is kind of what we're talking about today. But for me, it was productive in a different way, to where I played with my little brother. And so we were able to hang out, have fun, laugh. And that's quality time for me. And that is one of the most valuable things to me, knowing how quick time passes and anytime anyone can play anything, because life is so busy and everyone has kids now, and it's just hectic, and it's a little bit more hectic. I'm not like anyone's priority one, which is how it should be. And that does make it a lot more special when I'm able to spend time with anyone. We played, Helldivers, and we haven't. I did the tutorial a couple weeks ago, and it was hilarious. That game is so funny, and it's so ironic in the most hilarious way. So highly recommend that game if you haven't played it. It's not like it's brand new, but it's newer. I'm pretty late to game trends. I also don't have a lot of people around me right now that play Steam games, like silly little games. So it's kind of hard because I don't want to just play by myself. But I will. I also saw that they are coming out with the Lord of the Rings game, like Hogwarts Legacy. And for those that don't know, Hogwarts Legacy is a game, like a walk through open world, free world game. So you can find stuff, but you don't farm for things, actually. So I don't know if it's open world. I don't know. I don't actually know the difference, but you get to roam around Hogwarts Castle and the Forbidden Forest, and you can go to different parts of the land, of random places that aren't necessarily in the book, I don't think, or the movie. Places you can go, fight spiders and other random stuff. But I guess they're making Lord of the Rings games similar, to where you can customize your character, which really, that's all I care about sometimes. I just want to be able to change the look of my character all the time, depending on my mood. I want to be able to choose a different hairstyle, depending on what kind of a fight are we getting into. Do I need to put my hair up? What's the environment like? Do I need to change the color of my hair? Do I need to add more blush to my character? What are the vibes with my surroundings? That's my favorite part of those games, is customization of characters. And just finding stuff and all of it, the story, everything. I just love those games. It's also, for me, I'm either going to watch, if I'm trying to decompress, I'm either going to watch a show, scroll, which is not super healthy for my brain, just like the quick dopamine hits, or I'm going to get on a game where I can roam around and it takes me a long time to get one thing. I think that's healthier. Just like with calming music, there's no choppiness. It's just calming music. It's like Minecraft. Same thing with Minecraft. I can't quote or cite the study, but there's studies that I guess that kind of indicate that Minecraft can be helpful for the brain, is actually good to play, versus other things obviously is not as good for the brain. But Minecraft can actually be a really good way to soothe your nerves and anxiety. I never really got super into Minecraft, but I love the music. I'll listen to those YouTube videos where it's just the Minecraft music that plays over and over again. There is something about it. I kind of got into it, but I would just play with my little brother, another little brother. He really got into Minecraft, and he made some pretty cool stuff, but I kind of just roamed around, and I never really made anything that remarkable, honestly. I mostly just followed him around. Most of the time when I play with my brothers, it's just following them around. So that's my dub. And then again, my L is just that I've been sick, and the nose thing and the sinus thing Okay, now let's go into the details. This week has to do very much with having OCD. If you're somebody that struggles with OCD, struggled with it in the past, or know somebody that struggles with it, there's a lesson to be learned within recovery that really helps actually make steps towards change and to freedom. Like one thing with OCD is you feel so trapped in your own brain. And it's hard to describe it because that sounds really like, yeah, you feel trapped in your brain, but what does that mean? It like people say that, like, I feel trapped in my brain. I feel like I'm in a prison in my mind. And unless you're experiencing that, you don't really know how else to put it into words, but there's no freedom of expression when your OCD has kind of taken hold of your brain. There's no freedom to be creative. There's no freedom to just leap into faith, into loving someone, into loving something. You can never, you very rarely are able to feel like you can jump into something and be all in. And when you feel that, and especially if it's like love for somebody else, or even like for your child, or for, someone that you love or that's really close to you, or a faith in God, or love for an art that you practice, OCD will do anything to keep parts of you held back. Like it wants to hold you back from things. So when your soul, when your heart, when you want to like leap into something and you want to experience life like 100%, just like throw caution to the wind just for a second and experience life fully, it's almost impossible to do that, it feels like, with OCD. So the prison is really like you're walking on eggshells in your mind. If you think the wrong thing, it's going to send you down into a rabbit hole. Your whole brain is going to get hijacked. Your body sometimes gets hijacked. Some of your senses get hijacked by OCD trying to convince you that this thing is real and that you should be worried about it. You have to fix something right now. That's why it's a prison, is you don't feel free to express anything, even internally. It's not even like an external expression. It's like you can't even think clearly. You can't think clearly. You can't form a full thought without OCD jumping in halfway and shutting it down. You can't be happy about something or excited about something without OCD coming and like gripping it by the throat, throwing it down. Like that's how it feels. It feels very intrusive and abrupt and intrusive. Like that's why they call it intrusive thoughts. It's not impulsive. They're intrusions of thoughts, of feelings, of images, and it like hijacks your brain. But it actually can't make you do. In my experience, OCD has never been able to hijack my actual decision making. It's very convincing and it's very persuasive, but it doesn't like hijack my ability, my actual limbs. It doesn't make me do anything physically, or doesn't make me do anything. That's my choice. And when you kind of remember that, it's almost painful because you think, okay, I've wasted a lot of time doing things that I didn't really have to do, and I did have a choice, and I do have a choice. Sometimes that's like a painful realization, but also that's like one of the main steps to getting to a place of recovery, or, managing your OCD for the rest of your life. The reason I thought of this is because the amount of times that I've avoided something that I really, really love, like I know deep down that it means the world to me, like things that I just avoid because I'm listening to my OCD convince me that I should stay away because I don't want to hurt it, or I don't want to hurt myself, or I don't want to hurt this person, or I don't want to, don't touch any. Like sometimes my OCD tells me like, don't touch anything, don't get near anything because you're going to ruin it, or it's like you're going to spoil it, or something's going to get ruined. So just leave things alone, stay close to yourself. Like, don't worry. Don't get near other things. Okay. Don't put yourself out there in that way. And also it can make me avoid things that I love doing. Like, my OCD is convincing me that it's best to just not risk it and to just stay clear, to keep everyone safe is what my OCD says, to be responsible. I was just reminded because I was looking at my husband and I was just overcome with like, I love him so much. And immediately my OCD like shut that down. Red alarms went off like danger, don't let go, be lovey-dovey, just like be calm, be cool, calm, collected. Steer clear. Like, you don't want to open yourself up. Don't show him how much he means to you. Like, whatever OCD tells its does its whole thing. Or it's like, what if you don't actually really love him? This is all fake. Just the classics. And in that moment, I felt like so annoyed, but also I remembered almost immediately after those like flood of thoughts was the reminder that OCD latches onto the things that you care about most. And that has been like a saving grace for me, and not like a compulsive reminder, or like a something like a mantra I say over and over again, but it's something that I do need the reminder of every once in a while, because it helps me push through those uncomfortable thoughts and that initial frustration with OCD, to just be like, I'm not doing this with you right now. Like, I don't care what's going to happen. If I want to go be lovey-dovey to my husband and let him know how much I love him in this moment, and whatever it is, I'm just going to go do that. I don't know what you think is going to happen if I do that, but maybe I'm faking it. Maybe I'm a liar, whatever. But sometimes it's really clear in OCD recovery what OCD is doing. And it's like a blessing every time that happens, because it allows you to see things clearly, and allows you to see like, oh, OCD is keeping me away from the things that are precious to me. And that's so painful. But also when you can see through OCD and be like, oh, wait, you freak out every time I'm around. Like an example, you OCD might freak out every time you're around your kids, and that might be a huge trigger for you. But just remember, that's because you love your kids. Like, you love them so much. The most pure part of you loves them, And same with your spouse. If you have relationship OCD and you have a good relationship, and you're in it, sometimes it can try to keep you away from having a good relationship, so it keeps you further and further from them. Or maybe it's a hobby. It's something that you love to do that you're really passionate about. It could also be God. It could be your faith. It can be your religion, something that really matters to you, something you believe in. And OCD can take it and it can warp it and it can make it scary and it can make it against you. But it's because you very deeply care about that thing. And so that's why it's targeting that thing. So it's really helpful to just remember that every once in a while. Because in order to get to that thing that you care about so much, and the things that matter most to you that OCD tries to get you away from, the way to them, to experience them, to be in that, to experience, those precious things, is to go through the OCD. Like, you can't really go around it. You just have to go through it, to let it just be like, whatever, just fine. Hey, but I'm not going to like fine, you're here, but I'm not going to listen to you. You're not my master, You are not my master, okay? That's always just helpful to remember when you are struggling and when you feel distant from things that you care about and people you care about, because maybe, your OCD is, making you stay away from those things, or it's convincing you it's better off to not get close to things, because what if something bad happens, whatever it is. Okay, I think that's all for the details from this week. Thank you for listening to me go off on that for a second. And now it's time to go into the main topic of today's episode, which, again, I'm very excited about, mostly because selfishly, I very much needed this reminder. Let's get into the meat of today's episode. The first thing that I mentioned that I wanted to talk about was the fear and the experience of being disappointed, and also just the fear of being disappointed in your future, in yourself, and being disappointed by others, by your future. Sometimes it's how we were raised. Sometimes it can be from just your past experiences, and also can just be from a simple fear of, what if, like, I'm not going to be satisfied with my life, or what if I'm not going to ever be happy and I'm never going to feel like something is enough. And that, for me, very much can happen when I'm experiencing depression. And also sometimes after after I've been depressed or after I've been in some type of a depression, sometimes with like bipolar depression, I do remember there would almost be residual thoughts that would happen after. And it was always those types of thoughts. And especially during, if you are struggling with depression, those thoughts of like, what if I'm never going to be happy? What if nothing in my life is going to satisfy me? What if, there's something wrong with me because nothing is making me feel joy? Like I'm not feeling satisfaction or fulfillment from anything that I'm doing. Always with depression, it's always worth a mention of actual hormonal situation very much impacts the joy that you feel and the fulfillment that you feel. It's a very real thing that your brain is not creating and sending out the hormones that help you feel those things. So it's normal that you would then have thoughts that correlate with the lack of feelings that you may be having. But sometimes when you're not depressed and you're just kind of in a slump or you're struggling, or maybe you just got out of a depression and you are still thinking like, what if I'm not going to be, what if I'm just going to be disappointed? Or what if, there's just so many fears that you could have that stem from being disappointed. So anyways, with disappointment, or maybe we feel like we're going to be disappointed by God. If you are a religious person or you're a person of faith, sometimes it's scary to put your trust in something that you can't necessarily see. Doesn't feel very, it kind of feels natural, but it also doesn't feel natural. It depends on like what part of me. Sometimes I'm like, it does feel natural for me to just like believe and be super, throw caution to the wind and float around. But also then a part of me that is a little bit more fearful and more, scared that something's going to disappoint me, the more shadowy, I guess, part, I don't know, people call it all sorts of different things, is a little bit more scared to be trusting of something that I don't really know for sure exactly. Like can't put my finger on it, that I can't see. I don't know what we want to see with that, but So with that, there's a couple different things that I wanted to talk about. One, I grew up religious. I've really believed in God my whole life. It's a hope and a belief and a faith. But within that, I didn't always know like how God was, or I'm going to talk about my faith and God for a second. But I grew up religious and I always believed in God, and I was taught to believe in God. I was invited to believe in God like how other people did. And I'm actually really grateful that I grew up with some sort of faith, because I do feel like it's been a really good foundation for my life. And it's made me confident because I don't put my value and my worth on something that's very changing. I put it on what God says that I am. And there's nothing for me that's been more secure and a foundation that I could fall on when I'm heartbroken, when I'm excited, when I'm sad, when I'm angry. Like there's just something that's all encompassing. That's what God is to me. But that being said, growing up also with OCD, I always had like a very big fear of what God is and who he is, and if he was always mad or disappointed or, didn't want anything to do with me. And that's a horrifying feeling. That's a scary thing to think, especially when you're like a little girl too. I remember being really little and already punishing myself for like random thoughts. Or if I thought a boy was cute, I would be so disgusted with myself. Like all of these, and that got really messy for a while. But all that being said, the things that I've experienced and everything with my divorce and with depression, bipolar depression, OCD, all of like the roller coaster that was, the lowest points in my life, which I've shared before, but through all of it, the one thing that I feel like I really, really learned was that God was good. And to describe what good means, it's really hard for me to describe what that means, but it's anytime I've actually put emotional, spiritual, physical, whatever, trust in God, and I'm not exactly sure exactly how everything about him is, but every time I've spiritually and mentally and emotionally put trust in him, capital H, I have never been disappointed. I've only expanded. I don't usually share too much about God on this podcast because it's not really what it's about. It's about a lot of mental health, but I know there's a lot of people out there who maybe want to trust in a God. They want to believe in something. And so for me, it's always been worth it to choose to trust that there is a God, and not only is there a God, but he is good and that he is working for our good always. And no matter what it is, you can, turn to him and you can turn to him and lay it all out there. And there's nothing to me that's ever been more healing, but there's no better listener. And shockingly, I'd feel the least judged by God when I'm praying, or, in any circumstance, I feel the least judged. I just feel understood and loved. So that's my 2 cents on that. But it's a weird thing because my life has had a lot of hard things happen that felt very unfair at the time. Through it all, I still felt when I turned to God, I felt comforted. To the degree at which my heart was broken, I felt the exact same amount of comfort and love in return, times like 1,000 million forever. And I also think when you grow up, maybe religious or maybe not even religious, but when you grow up and there's people who are claiming to be close to God or claiming to be really good Christians and they did some really horrible stuff. So we're scared that we'll be disappointed by God. But what's been helpful for me is just like someone does something horrible and they claim that they're a good person and then they're not, then clearly they're not a good person. And also I don't associate any other human being ever with God. Like he is and everyone else is what they are. To me, that feels separate, which is comforting. So I think just like what is it called? A reflective question to think about is like, are you scared of being disappointed by something, by someone, by life? And if so, is it affecting the way that you're living your life? I think this kind of goes back into some limiting beliefs that we might have about life, about our ability to be happy and life's ability to surprise us with good, positive stuff. I also think a part of that is there's a lot of really good things happening maybe around you now, but it's really hard to believe it or even see it or experience it or receive it because we may just be focusing on all of the ways that things are going wrong or all the things that we think should be happening, but they're not. And when we focus on the things that we think should be happening, but they're not happening, it can cause us a lot of pain and grief and frustration, and it really just keeps us stuck because we're scared that we're making all the wrong decisions and life should have looked differently by now if I just did more stuff right. But there's a lot of things probably in your life now that you wanted, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, that you've made happen now. So it's always a good thing to just take a moment and slow down. Something I've observed that helps with, at least for me, the feeling of being disappointed or being scared that you're going to be disappointed and never going to be happy or satisfied is by not measuring your worth or your satisfaction with life by presentable accomplishments. How would you feel if you were not extraordinarily good at something? How would you feel about yourself if you just were average at something? If you were a beginner and you weren't that good? Sometimes if that's a really uncomfortable, painful thing to even think about, that could be a curious part of you to learn about. Like, why do you feel so horrified at the fact that you might just be ordinary at something? Why doesn't that feel okay? Maybe you need to be so insanely good at everything or you don't even want to touch it or try it. The reality is, every one of us is very normal at most things. That's just being a human. And we get to decide if that's amazing or not amazing. And life is a lot better when you decide. Life can feel a lot better when we decide that being sometimes ordinary in some things is okay. And we don't have to prove to anyone that we deserve to be here on this earth, So be curious about what limiting beliefs you might have that feed into this fear of disappointment or fear of never being happy. And also, again, like I said, depression can play a very big major role in these types of thoughts and feelings. And if it's staying and it doesn't feel like it's leaving, then that could be something that you would want to speak to somebody about and get help for, is the depression. And depression is hard because there is a part of you that's deep down wants to experience the lightness of life again, the joy, the freedom, the satisfaction, the fulfillment that comes with living life and doing cool things and having fun and going on adventures and learning something new, learning a new hobby, getting really good at something. Once you start naming your limiting beliefs, one of the main things that helped me, and something I talk about all the time, is to trust that things will get better. Like really trust and believe that your life can get better. And also, I think a good practice is picturing your life later today. Maybe picture your life tomorrow. And if you were to make any changes, and if you were to trust that life will be good tomorrow, what decisions do you make? What actions do you take in the next day? What does that life look like? What do you look like? How are you talking to yourself? What do your thoughts sound like? What's one small thing that you can do to get closer to that better future? It's also really helpful to just acknowledge what is now and be very accepting unconditionally of what exactly is your life circumstance right now, what exactly is happening. Be able to acknowledge it and then move forward. What also can be so helpful with this is just taking, those quiet moments, find like 5 to 10 minutes a day where you are just with yourself. I'm so big on that, and I will keep bringing that up all the time. It's just taking time by yourself. Doesn't have to be for a long time, and it can look however you want it to look, but to prioritize taking that time to listen to yourself, to meditate, to pray, to, whatever it is that you'd want to use that time doing. And I think the most important thing is just to be intentional about what that time is for, and that it's for melting away all of the extra things that you're worrying about, all of the extra burdens you're putting on yourself, all of the extra, anything that you can kind of shave off and let melt off your shoulders. That's what that time should be for. And it probably does need to happen pretty often, like every day at least. I feel like we build up stuff so easily. At least I do, but maybe not everyone's like that. But I feel like I build up emotions really easily and quickly. So I need time every day to like actually reset. And that does help clear my mind, so that way I can think about the future more clearly and I'm not holding on to so many things from my past. And then the last thing before we get into Dear Abby is just investing in yourself. It's like a tale as old as time, where we're like, we'll be happy when. In the future, when everything's like this, then I'll finally feel satisfied. Then maybe I'll feel happy. Then, whatever. So I don't want to fall into that trap. That's not what like focusing on your future or, believing and trusting in your future. So I want to be clear on that. For me, it's been really helpful to remember when I feel this sad feeling of it's too late to start something, or when I'm scared that I'm too late, that other people are already really good at this, or I'm never going to get good, I'm too old already, I can't start this, I'm not limber enough, I'm not whatever enough, that to not start now will be equally as devastating to you in 5 years and 10 years. And that you in 10 years is still going to be this person here. It's still going to be you, the person listening to this. The essence of you and your experience, your consciousness, like that will still be you. That's experiencing that life. So just little by little, invest in yourself. Put that value on your future self to where it is worth it, to where you remember it, like you are worth that investment. Your future self, you now, and your future self, which is still going to be and feel like you now, is going to be so grateful. And also you are worth that investment. You can actually accomplish so much in just 1 year. You can change so much in 1 year. You can experience so much in 1 year, let alone 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Don't sell yourself short. You have no idea how much you can accomplish, and also how much happiness you can find now in your life now. If there's just a mindset shift that needs to happen, or if there's therapy that you need to go, be a part of, or help that you need. Don't sell yourself short, and don't sell your future short. Believe in a good future. Believe in good things happening to you. Believe that There is someone out there working for you, if that's helpful for you to think. Don't let like the cynical part, or the part that's like, don't be so dramatic. Don't let that part hijack you, okay? Don't let that part hijack your life and make you not want to try stuff or not want to invest or commit to something because you're like, well, that's stupid. I don't want to try, because you're scared that you'll fail, or you're scared again, like you're going to get disappointed, or you're going to disappoint yourself. It's like, then you disappoint yourself and then you get up and you try again. It's hard. It's really hard to find a perfect balance, and I don't think it's possible, but it can be really helpful to just be super happy with where you are now, and keeping in mind that future you is also extremely valuable, and it's good to invest time and effort into something that you think you will enjoy in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is, even if that's just the body that you're living in. But you can still take joy in the process of that now. I think that for me makes me actually stay more committed, is when I'm not so focused on like, I have to do this for 20 years, because that just seems daunting. It's way more helpful for me to just focus on now in the present moment, because that's like, that's all we have. That is actually all we're experiencing, to know that my investment in myself is going to pay off, but focusing on myself now. I don't know if that makes any sense, but makes sense in my head. Okay, now let's do a Dear Abby, and then we will end today's episode. Okay, this one is a text message, and it says, Dear Abby, lately someone in my life has been expressing symptoms of mental illness. I have gone to therapy and used the help of medication to treat my mental illnesses, and I want them to get the same kind of help. The issue is they have a stigma against psychiatrists and treatment. How do you talk to someone close to you about the importance of getting help? That is a tricky one. That is a tricky one, because mental illness can be a very sensitive topic and a very vulnerable topic for people to open up about. And it's not something you can like force somebody to open up to you about. You started off by saying they've been expressing symptoms of mental illness. I don't know if that means that they've been talking to you about it and like opening up to you, or if that means like you've just been seeing that from them, just the way that they are, living their life. Like you are seeing the expression of mental illness showing, and it's manifesting physically that you can see, and manifesting physically so you can see, but it's something you can't force somebody to do or take seriously or just open up about, because again, it's very personal. Like when I think of the things that I struggle with, I don't really want to tell that many people, but if it's someone that is dear to you and you're close to them and they're already expressing, or they're opening up to you a little bit, first thing I can think of is just be patient with them in their process of discovering if they need help. Second thing is, sometimes people can learn by your example. Like if you take your mental health seriously, it can be something that they can see on you and how you've overcome things, or how much better you're doing, or even just the way that you talk about it and you support other people when they're struggling. It can be something that just helps them. So I'd say just keep working on things for yourself, and people just notice that without you having to, even bring it up sometimes, especially if they're going through like silent battles. I think most people don't like being told what to do. It also doesn't feel good when somebody else tells you that they know what you should do, because I think all of us as humans like the ability to decide what we want to do, and to feel like it was our decision, and also to feel like it was our idea. I don't know why we are like this, but we are. And most of us are. Some of us aren't, but most of us are like this. So that's why it's also hard to bring it up, because you don't want to tell them you think you know more than them. Because I think one of the main parts of being a supportive person to someone we care about is by listening, and really just listening and being there. So I'd say that's probably my next piece of advice, is when they talk to you about it, it's really easy and you want to go into fix mode and tell them all the things they need to do and fix. And there's definitely a time and a place for that. And if they ask you stuff, then definitely, tell them what you think, what might be helpful, give them suggestions. I'd say don't ever tell them that they should do something. I think a better way of saying it is like, hey, this actually really helped me, like to be very vulnerable. I really struggled with this, And when I started taking medication, or when I did therapy and I took that seriously, like, it actually really changed my life. It's the way that you, I think, express it is probably the most important thing. If you were to talk to somebody you love about, maybe them seeking help, it needs to come from a place of vulnerability and love and respect. Yeah, I'd say just listen. Very, very good. Be a very, very good listener. Listen to them, be with them, be present in, whatever they're experiencing. And then when you feel like it's a good time, maybe insert something. Maybe you can add, your a little small chunk of your experience to mostly show them that, like, hey, I'm going to be vulnerable with you and tell you something that really helped me. If you're curious about it, I can give you more information, but like, that's, that's all I can really help with, is like my own experience with this. But I do think sometimes some people do need a little bit of a push, but again, it has to be a very lovingly push, and it has to be done in a way of being respectful and gentle, but also being very truthful with your own experience. And I think when you're being very honest and open, people can sense that. And when you're not trying to prove a point, but when you're trying to, like, just be honest about something, people can feel that. And there's a shift in a conversation when that happens. So I'd say just keep those things in mind. That's what I would do. And patience. Again, patience is a very big one for that kind of stuff sometimes. Okay, I think that's going to be it for today's episode of Dear Abby. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode. If you want to support the podcast, you can leave a rating and review on Apple and Spotify, as well as subscribe, as well as subscribe and comment on YouTube. If you want to go above and beyond, you can post me on your story. You can post this podcast on your story on Instagram or TikTok or whatever the heck. Or just send us to a friend that you think would enjoy this episode or any of my episodes. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, beautiful, lovely weekend. Take yourself out, have fun, be kind to yourself, and that's it. Love you guys. Bye.
우회전 taking a ride to journey 눈치 보면서 들어가야 할 때 찾아 나머진 바빠 개설레임 바꾸는 사람들